Okay, just maybe a few brief words on speech, right speech, that as we're moving out of winter retreat, still kind of re-engaging in the world of activity and engagement, going to naturally find ourselves talking more freely, talking a bit more, having more conversations as we open up to the external world a little more than we have been, more town trips, more activities. So the stimulation level starts to rise up, and it's particularly noticeable around speech. And so just to be sensitive to and aware of how powerful the speech door is. We've got the 3 doors of body, speech, and mind, and have some pretty circumscribed rules around bodily activity, and they're pretty clear guidelines that the Buddha gives us about how we dispose ourselves in terms of action, bodily action. And the mind is a whole different ball of wax in terms of one of the doors for expression, sankhara, the chitta sankhara, but the vaci sankhara, the verbal formations, the thoughts and the words that come out are particularly impactful in a monastery. So to just really draw attention to that whole process, I think most of us will know the guidelines for the various forms of right speech, but I think using it like any kind of contemplative practice, we want to see what it is that's underlying our speech patterns or the words that we choose or the things we wish to communicate. The words, the thoughts, formations, the conceptualizing that happens very quickly before the words come out. All of those are based in whatever mind state is underlying the speech or the thoughts at that particular moment. So we always just encourage, like with any contemplative practice at all, to go below the level of abstraction and thinking and words that we choose to what's going on underneath. And to do that, you need to be relatively reflectful and being able to slow down and consider, go deeper into your heart to see, well, what's the underlying tendency? What's the underlying mood now? Is it wisdom that's activated and in charge? Or is mindfulness and clear comprehension kind of at the core so that we're really aware? Certainly that's a very useful quality to have for speech. Or is it, is probably more often the case, some form of kilesa, of wanting, not wanting, greed, hatred, delusion, essentially, confusion? Is that what's kind of the underlying mental tendency and it's informing our speech? So to take the time to really just stay inward and go deep to see what's informing our speech patterns, our perceptions, and even most importantly, our listening. I think the most important part of right speech is actually right listening, and how much of an effort it takes to be really fully present, to listen to what someone is saying. I mean, how many times, we're all guilty of this. I can see it myself happen, plenty of times too, that we're having a conversation with somebody, and particularly if it's a challenging one, or if there's some confusion or unclarity or disagreement or emotional aspect of it, how much of the time when somebody's talking to us in a situation like that, are we thinking about the next thing that we're going to say rather than actually listening to what it is that they're actually saying? It seems like what we're doing, our emotions are geared towards explaining, defensiveness, wanting to make sure our point is heard, so that we just constantly planning and leaping into the next thing that we're about to say without really hearing what the other person is talking about. And we miss a lot of important data that way, and a lot of important data that could really ease difficult times if there's hard communications going on. So just really learning how to step back, disengage from your own thinking process, even if it's uncomfortable, because you're wanting to come up with your next point that you need to make, or the next explanation for your own feelings or behavior or speech or whatever, and just to step back and just say, okay, what's this person really feeling? What are they experiencing? How is it coming out in communication? I really want to understand. and to establish that intention of really wanting to understand. So that's deep listening, and not being ready to get out to the next thing, like the old hand on the doorknob, listening to somebody very intently, but your hand's on the doorknob, ready to get out and go and do what you want to do. So just being aware of your body language, to be able as much as possible to stop what you're doing, turn, attend, and be there as a receptive vesicle for whatever it is that's coming out. And it's incredible when I find that I can remember to do that, how much easier life is, really. It allows a person space to be heard, and it allows me kind of a sense of awareness in my own heart, in my own mind, so that if I can see reactions or ways that I want to respond or wanting to get my 2 cents in, just to see that as a mental process, it's actually unpleasant and unhelpful for either myself or the other person. So to just sit back, very much establish a space in which to listen, create that common space where you can meet in the space between two people rather than operating as your two separate individuals in your own little pods of awareness. See if you can create a common space where communication can be there, can be clearly heard and understood and explored. And this is definitely part of community living, and definitely a part of community living after retreat. So just be careful and realize also that people are, really doing the best they can in most cases, and that we're all kind of on the same wavelength with the same values. And there's going to be rough spots sometimes and miscommunications. And if we're open to that, we can really learn a lot from that. So just to offer that for morning reflection.